So this will be the agenda today. It'll be split off into 3 sections. So the first section, we're going to be going over EPLAN reports and EPLAN templates, how to create basic reports, what's the difference between a report and a template, as well as modifying report forms and some report settings. After that, we're going to be moving on to the plot frame, how to modify plot frame, as well as how to use plot frame to create to show revisions on the page. And then lastly, we'll be going over export labeling or an Excel extraction or Excel report, different names. So I'll be showing you how to set up an Excel report, setting up the template, as well as some automated processing to speed all of that up. Anyway, so the purpose of a report is it allows us to see what is in our project. So this could be something as simple as a table of contents, like what sort of pages there are. It can also be parts lists, cable diagrams, etc. So the image on the right that you see there is just an example of these are all the types of reports you have available in EPLAN. But keep note, some special report types you do need like an add-on license for it. But for all the commonly used ones, it will be there with the basic select license. So just to go over something, so these are just 2 examples of reports. On the left is a title page, and on the right is a table of contents. So the title page just shows off, it'll show off your company name, company details, client details, project details, all of this automatically generated without me having to type in anything on the page. Then table of contents just shows you what's on the page. And another useful report type is the enclosure legends. So this is great for 2D panel layouts, or any panel layout. So anything in this on the enclosure panel on the right, it's reflected on the left with ID numbers or legend items as they're called. So now I'm just going to give you a demo on how to create these report types. Okay. So I'm in EPLAN now. I've got my project, and I'm going to start off with the title page. So to create a report, you navigate to the tools section, and it's going to be under this command group, this group here. So I'm going to select my project and go generate. And it's going to bring up this window. And up here, I've got reports and I've got templates, so I can choose which one. So I'll start off with reports. And to create a new one, you're going to go into the plus. And as you've seen on the PowerPoint, these are all the report types I have available. So it's pretty comprehensive. And I'm going to choose the title page. And up here where it says output format, what this means is I can choose, do I want to place this on a separate page, or do I want to place this or attach this to my cursor, then place it on an existing page? So I'll be going over both of them, but for now, I'll just stick with a separate page. And then if I go OK. And then what you see here, these are some extra settings for my report. So I have the option to add a filter if I want to filter anything else. And then I can also do sorting for certain types of reports. And importantly, I have to choose a form for my report. So if I go into the drop down, I can see these F26s. These are just the defaults. And you can also have your own custom. You can also browse if something's not on the list. But for now, I will just stick to the default form. And I'll go OK. And now this window is asking us where do we want to place the title page. So over here, I can choose the structure identifier, as in I can go 3 dots, select which one. Or if I go all the way down here, I have a page navigator. So if I click on this washing line, it fills this in up here. So I'm going to put this under washing line, but outside of CP1. And then I can choose a page number or page name. And I'll just have this be on page 1. And then I can choose, do I want to have an automatic page description or do I want to type it in manually? So I'll keep it manual, gives me more control. And when you're happy with all of this, you can just click OK. And you can see it generated my page. So let's just have a look at what we did. Yeah, I can see everything. I can see my company name, all the details for the project, and all of these details are being picked up from the project properties, which have already been assigned. So I'm going to move on to the table of contents now. So it's the same process. I go into generate under reports, go back to into the plus, and just above my table of contents. So same everything. I can choose I can filter pages out. So for example, let's say if I was to have a table of contents for a certain section of the project, not the whole thing, I can choose to filter based on different sections or different structure identifier. But I'm not interested in that for this demo. So no filters needed. And I'm going to choose, let's go with the first filter. So let's go with the first form. I'm going to choose the first form. Yep. And to save myself some time, I can click on title page here in the page navigator. And by doing so, it incremented to page 2 and then washing line, which saves me from having to type all of this in again. When I'm happy, I can go OK and close. And I can see my table. Yep, I can see all the pages in my project. Now, I want to talk about a bit about forms. You'll notice something, as in this table of contents has a lot of empty rows. And the reason why it has all those empty rows is because this form is static. And to show you the difference between a static form and a dynamic, I'm going to change this form to a dynamic one. And to do that, I'm going to go back into generate, but I'm not going to click on the plus. Instead, I'm going to expand this. So expand until I see table of contents. So what you're looking at is this is a navigator of all the reports in your project. And then on the right, these are all the properties to do with that report. So for example, here you can add or modify your filters or your sorting settings. You can look at who created this. And then down here, you can change the form. So let's say if I change this to form number 2, and then if I up here, I go update. So now you can see I've changed this to a dynamic form. And you can tell it's dynamic because there's no extra rows. As soon as we've had the last page, that's it. It's all blank from there on. So that's the difference between a static form and a dynamic form. Now, lastly, before we move on to the next topic, I just want to show you about how to place reports, manual placements or embedded reports. So let's say I want to place an enclosure legend for this. So I want to place the enclosure legends on this page. I don't want to have it on a separate page because we don't need to do that. So I can select the page. I can go generate. And it's the same process. Just go into the plus, scroll up until to E, enclosure legends. And one thing I need to change is I don't want this to be on a separate page. So we're going a manual placement. And down here, I can choose, do I want to do the current page? Or do I want to select which panel layouts or mounting panel I'm doing, but I can just do current page. And then again, I'm just going to choose my form. Go OK. And you can see it's now on my cursor. And I can place it anywhere I want. And voila. I've got item numbers, device tags, and whatever. And this information here, like the item numbers, device tags, matches what's in here. And just to go back to, if I go back to the generate, if you're wondering what the embedded reports are, the embedded report is anything that I've placed on my cursor. So like these enclosure legends, that's the difference between embedded and the pages. Okay, anyway. The next thing I want to talk about is the report templates. So the way I've created my reports, it's very repetitive. I had to go generate title page, generate table of contents, generate, etc., etc. So with the reports template, I can create all my reports with the click of a button. And these are just some reports that I plan on creating. So I want to create a parts list, summarized, and a cable diagram. And then the difference between parts list and summarized is parts list is every device, a list of every device. Summarized is every part number, not device. You'll see once we've generated. Let me just give you a demo. Okay, so to create my templates, I'm going back into generate. And instead of the reports tab, I'm going to swap over to templates. And you can see I've got nothing in this list. So I need to add. So first, if I go new, I add a parts. I'm going to start off with a parts list. Go OK. Now, with my parts list, I've decided I want to have a filter. So I only want parts that are in my MCC or cabinets. So I'm going to choose a filter for MCC. And the way this filter works, I'm just going to show you how, is I'm using the field mounting side describing. And anything with the value MCC parts is going to be included in my parts list. If it doesn't have this value, it'll be filtered out. Sorting, I can choose, I'll leave it empty for now. If I go into my form, I'm just going to do the simple generic one. If I go OK. And I've decided I want my reports to be in a separate location designation, not CP1. So I just need to change it with the 3 dots, something like this. And I'm going to have it start at page 10, and it's going to increment. Each different report is going to be incremented by 10, just so we have some space, so nothing's overlapping. And I can change this to MCC parts list. If I go OK, you can see nothing generated on the left in my navigator. I still have it up here. And if you ever change your mind about anything to do with the parts list, whether it's which page it starts on, you can change it again. You can also change the form. Any property, you can change it if need be. And I'm now going to add in the summarized parts list and the cable diagram, so I'll just do it quickly because it's the exact same process. Just okay. So I've got my 3 different reports. If you're wondering why this says 1, it's because that is the name of this report by default. You can change it to something else, like let's say cable, up to you if you decide to change it. And to generate these reports from my templates, I can just go and click on this generate report. And let's have a look at what I generated. Yep, you can see it's all here. I've got my parts list. So these are every single device. And this is more like summarized. So that's the difference between the two. And then my cable diagram is a very useful report type because it's showing me what cables I have as well as which cores. And another thing about reports is that they're very good for checking for errors in your project. Like, for example, this cable up here, this just caught my eye. I can see I have 2 red cores and I'm missing my white core. So which means I've obviously made a mistake somewhere. So if I go to this cable by holding Control and clicking, I can see red, red, white, red, red, blue, black. So this middle one here should be white. So if I change it to white like this, and if I go back, now I just need to update this report. So I click, so I select the reports group, and I just go update. And look at that, now it's fixed. So yeah, really great way to spot mistakes in your report. Okay, next, I can talk about modifying a form. But before I do that, I just want to just go over something that I missed. So if I go back to generate reports, down here under settings, you have different options. You have different settings you can play around with, but a useful one to look at would be parts. So what this tells us is this is sort of like a filter of what we're going to export to my parts list. So for example, anything without a part number is filtered out. I'm choosing to export terminals. I'm ignoring cables because I already have a cable diagram for that. But I'm including all these other things. And there's a lot more settings you can play around with, but we don't have the time for that. Anyway, to edit a report form, you need to go to master data, and you can either modify an existing report form or you can make a copy. So usually I would recommend you make a copy so you still have the original just in case something goes wrong. So I'll make a copy, and I'm going to be modifying the parts list form. So down here, if we have a look, these are all the different report forms. You'll notice that they all have a different extension at the end. So all your parts lists will be .f01, PLC diagrams, .f19, etc. There's something to be aware of. And I want to modify the first one, which I'm using. So I'm just going to double click this. Choose a different name. Just going to add in V2 at the end. Go save. Okay. And you can tell this form is static because the lines go all the way to the bottom. So if I have a look at this, there's two things I would like to change. One, I want to add an ERP number. And second, I want to make this dynamic. So what I mean by that is if I go to my MCC parts list, I think this should say MCC parts list, not just parts list, because if someone's reading this, they won't know it's only just the MCC parts. So we need to make this reflect the page description. Okay. So let's start off with this one here first. So this is a fixed text, and I want to change this to a page description. So I'm going to delete this. And if I go to insert, where it says text here, I'm going to choose the drop down and go page properties. And then I can choose my property here, or okay, it's already there for me. So I'll just go okay. And then once it's placed, I can maybe just make it a bit bigger. Let's go with 5. Yep, that works for me. The next change I want to do is, as I said, have an ERP number. So I'm thinking, I don't think I need type number. I'll keep the part number. Don't need the type number. Let's change that to ERP. And then this field here is a placeholder text. So to insert one from scratch, if you're interested, you would have to go to this forms, and then down here, there's placeholder text. These other special fields, they're reserved for the dynamic forms. But for now, I'm happy with just modifying this. So if I just double click this, I want to change this 3 dots. And then I can just use the search function ERP. And there we go, ERP number. And something I didn't mention is all of these lines are modifiable. So I can select on any line like this. I can choose to move columns closer together or further apart. So let's say I've decided to minimize this device tag column because it's too much. Move everything to the left. Need B. And then lastly, this is more of an optional change, but I like to make sure nothing overlaps, like what you see here. So to stop something from overlapping, just move this to the middle. Stop something from overlapping, I would use an alignment box. So the way it works is if you go into your properties format, down here you have alignment box, you can activate it, and you can go text width fixed, Go OK. Yep, you can see there's a box now. And then if you minimize the box, something like this, now there's no overlapping with the next placeholder text. It's not, it's not essential, but it just helps. It just makes it a lot easier to look at this form. When I'm happy with this, now that I'm happy with this, I can close this. And I need to update my template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these reports, and I'm just going to regenerate them again. And if I generate these again, I'm just going to change my path list form. So down here, if I don't see F0101 anywhere here, I need to go into the browse until I see the V2. And when I'm happy, if I select this, I can regenerate this again. And everything's back as it was. If I go to my path list, see, yeah, I can see the ERP number, which, okay, I don't have any ERP. We're not using ERP numbers, but if I was, it would be filled in. And I can see MCC parts list here. Now it's a much more accurate title. Yeah. Okay, so that's reports done. We can move on to the next section, which is plot frames. So a plot frame is EPLAN terminology for a title block that goes around your page, or goes on every page. And the plot frame basically just tells us information about the page, information about the project. And if you set it up properly, it can also show you the revisions as well. So I'll just go over and modify plot frames. So at the moment, this is my current plot frame. So I want to make some changes to it. And to do that, you're going to go master data. Yeah, master data, and then above form where it says plot frame. And you can go copy, open. I'll just modify the existing one. Yep, and this is what it looks like. And the process for modifying a plot frame is very similar to modifying a report form. If you can do one, you can almost do the other. So I'm just going to fix this. I'm just going to add a logo here. There we go, much better. And I can add a job number. So if I want to add in a property, it's the same as with the form. I go to insert, and then under text, I can choose a project property or a page. So my job number is a project property. So I'm going to click on that. And okay, it's already there, but if it wasn't, I will just go into the three dots and then find it here. We go OK. And just place it at the bottom, something like this. Yeah. And then on the left here, these are my revisions. So these revisions are not there by default. I had to create them. So what these are is that these are user supplementary fields. If I just go into the properties, you can see Rev1. And if I go down here, you can see this is a page, user supplementary field 1 that I've renamed to be Rev1. Now you're probably thinking, how did I select this name to be Rev1? And the answer to that is by configuring properties. If I go to Tools, and if I go this one here, Properties Management, you can see under EPLAN page, user supplementary field 1, I just typed in Rev1. And the same here, Rev 2, Rev 3, and so on. You can also export this and import this as well. So we can give you our revision names if you're interested in something. You can email us. And yeah, and then if you are creating or modifying your plot frame, some useful features. This one here. So if I click on paths, basically what this path is showing us the width of each column as well. And then this one here, empty texts. No, sorry, listen, properties as numbers. So you can decide to view all of these properties as digits, or which is their ID numbers. I mean, everything here. And if you want to get really technical, you can also choose to modify, how many columns you have, how many widths, how many rows. To do that would be, you find the page here, you go right click and then properties. And then this will tell you, you can decide. So for example, here I only have one row because everything else is 0. And then I have, X number of columns. But this is more advanced stuff. We won't have time to do it here. And to show you how this works, if I just close this up here, you can see synchronization, yes. So yeah, I just fix my plot frame. And I'm just going to show you how we add revisions to the plot frame. So to do that, I need to select all my pages like this, and then go right click. Because these are page properties, they're going to be under properties here. And I scroll down until I see these Rev1, date of Rev1, etc. So let's say I'm going to add in a revision A, which is going to be draft. So I'll start with latest revision A, today's dates. And drafts. And then my name, my initials. And if you're wondering why I decided to fill in latest revision, and the answer is because I'm using this field for my table of contents. So I go OK. You can see it filled in for all of the pages. If I go to table of contents, up here I have a field called, I set up a field called latest revision. And if I update this now, if I go into tools and update, you can see it filled in with all my revisions. And I've also, added the extra pages I was missing. Yeah. So again, this is just a nice and easy way of doing revisions with a plot frame and custom fields. Okay. The live demo. So the last section is the Excel extracts. So I've shown you how to make some good looking reports in EPLAN, but sometimes you also want all that information to be in an Excel file. So that's where the Excel extracts or export labeling, to use the EPLAN terminology, comes in. And we also have automated processing, which basically allows us to do multiple of these Excel exports with the click of a button. So this is this icon here is just this. Now, and I'm going to show you how to do both of them. Okay. So the export labeling or Excel extract can be found under, if you select the project, you go File, Export, and it's found under Manufacturing Data. And it's this one here, Labeling. So you have export labeling. So I'm going to walk you through So I want to export a parts list to Excel. So I'm just going to walk you through this. Yeah, so first thing I would go is, so first thing I would do is I would check the file, make sure I'm exporting a Microsoft Excel, not a text or an XML. That's a common mistake I've seen some people do. And then just choose the target file. I would recommend for target file, put it somewhere on your desktop. Yep, like this. So we have an empty folder. So let's try again. Choose the name. Yep, there we go. I've got my target file. Templates. If I had a template, I would use it, but for now, I'm just going to generate without a template. And then lastly, you want to go into options, include column header and output, make sure it says complete. Yep. And then for header, you can choose which. So this header is everything you want, every project property that you want to show before the data begins. So at the moment, I'm choosing to have project name and job number. But if you wanted to, you would select this project properties, move it to the right, and then you can add more information if you want. Stuff like the power supply, place of installation. Those are just examples. And then for label, so this is all the data, all the properties, all the data you want to export. So for the interest of saving time, I've already filled this in. But if you were to fill this in yourself, you would simply choose which objects, which property of which object. So for example, if I'm going to choose a device property, like let's say the device tag, I would select device, move it to the right, and then find my property. Or you would choose the parts in the part database and then get that. So which is what I've done here. My first one's device, my next four are parts. You also have footers. So this goes at the very bottom of the report, but I'm not going to be using that for this demo, but the options are there. And then lastly, we have settings. You can see I can choose what I want to export, what I don't want to export. And I can also add in the filter and a sort. So filter, I'll leave this empty for now. Sort, I'll use this empty scheme here that I made. Basically, I'm going to sort by the page name and then the device tag. And then when I'm happy with all of this, I can save it. And then go OK. English US, export and style application, go OK. And this is what I get, everything in Excel. I'm just going to expand some of these columns. Yep, so I've started on page 100, go stand. So you can see this looks pretty, doesn't look as nice or as fancy, especially some of these header names. So to fix that, I need to make a template. So I'm just going to save this for now and then close it. So to make a template, what you need to do is if I just go to my laptop, sorry. So to make a template, I would make a copy of this and then, modify it. So I'm going to do that now. Now, normally, best practice would be to save your template in your master directory under templates. But for the interest of time, I'm just going to leave it here. So I've got my parts list template. And if I open this up, and now I can begin converting this into a template. First thing I need to do is delete all the data. Just go to the top and then delete these heading data as well. And then secondly, add the placeholder text. So the placeholder text for headers is hashtag H hashtag. And I can just drag this down. The placeholder text for the normal data labeling is just 3 hashtags. And you can imagine if I had a footer, it would just be hashtag F hashtag. So now that that's done and it's functional, I can just add some style to this template. So what I like to do is get rid of these weird zeros in front. Change some of these names. So like device tag will be better. Maybe just make this part numbers. Make this part description. Just make this, manufacturer, supplier. And then for a bit more style, I'm going to add in a picture. I'll just add in the company logo. This. Yeah, so I'm happy with how this template looks. So I've just saved it, close it, go back to EPLAN. And now I can assign the template to the scheme. So going back into File, Export, Labeling, 3 dots. So I'm going back into here. Now I just choose my template. And it's this one here. So if I save this, I'm happy. If I go OK, and look at that. Much better, looks much nicer, looks cleaner. And yeah, that's how you use a template to make your Excel exports look good. And then the last thing we can finish off with is the automated processing. So you can imagine if you have like 5 of these, exports, you don't want to go file, export, do this 5 times. We want to do this with the press of a button. And to do that, it's going to be under Tools, Automated Processing. And then we can use this default. So what this automated processing is, because I haven't explained it, is it's a way to automate certain tasks in EPLAN. So EPLAN does these step by step. And the tasks that it can automate is what you see on the left here. And one of these should be very familiar to you, which is this one here. So I move this to the right. I can choose my parts list. If I go OK. And I can move this to the right again. So let's say I want to export some Y numbers as well. So I can move this to the right. Instead of parts list, I would go Y numbers. So the Y numbers is just a scheme I've already made. Just for the interest of saving time, go OK. We can save it. And another trick I want to show you. So before I generate this, if I just go back into here, if I go back into here, I want to talk about having less generic names. Because if I export this, parts list.xlsx is a very generic name. So to make this name not generic, you can use what's called a insert path variable. So if I do this, you can see I've got all of these variables here, like environment, project. So I like to go to the project variables and then choose the job number. I mean, you can also do project description as well, or project name if you prefer. But for me, I prefer job number. So if I choose this job number here and go OK, and then just go space dash space, and then save it. Go OK. And then I'll do the same thing for the export Y numbers. So if I just double click, I'll do the insert path variable again. Bring in the job number and then space dash space. I won't have any templates for that, but that's fine. Okay, now let's put this. Yep, I just saved the default. Okay. And let's put this to the test. If I go OK. Okay, it exported everything. So this is my Y numbers from the project. I don't need to save this. Yeah, this is the path list and brought this up. And if I go back to my folder, you can see it brought in the job number, which is for me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something generic. Yeah, it just helps having something like this be more specific, so you know which path list is which, so you don't have to manually name it or rename it. So yeah.